Let's do it.
Okay, great. So welcome everybody. Thanks for joining. This is our designing your own life session with mostly with Tony, a little bit with me. This is actually session number 5. We've had some great prior sessions around branding, health, personal goal setting that are all available on the sales community website under our events tab. So I encourage you to look at those. This will be another live virtual event. Feel free to ask questions. Probably the best thing to do is just put it in the chat, and I try my best to monitor those. And I don't know about you, but I took the self-assessment, and I wouldn't say I failed miserably, but certainly was not one of the better self-assessments I've taken. So I'm definitely looking forward to the session. So Tony, look forward to it. Thanks again.
Super. All right, everybody, let's make this an incredibly powerful hour. Thanks for being with us. As Randy said, here we are on item number 5 of our 9. And each time we do our best to prepare and to make it even more impactful. So we're going to do our best to do that today. This is a book that I wrote years ago, guys. I've written 26 books on presenting. This is one of those 26 books. Obviously, you can see the title. It's called Presenting with Style. And what I like to do, and I know many of you have heard me say that, but just so everybody can get it, I like to tell the story that if you go to France and you go to Paris and you speak French, you can get along a lot better than if you only speak English. However, if you go to France and only speak English, you can still get along just fine. Frank, would you agree with that?
I would, yes.
Terry, would you agree with that?
I would.
And so it's kind of like DISC. So DISC is one example of many personality styles that are out there. And if you understand and can speak DISC, you can get along a lot better. When my kids are 4 or 5 years old, I started teaching them the language of DISC, much of what I'm going to share today. And the reason that I started teaching them that is because I wanted them to have the advantage of being able to have that additional language, if you will, to pull from. I think there's 2 other languages that are great. We won't go into them today. One is NLP, how we communicate at the unconscious level. And that's also a language that a lot of people can get along without. However, if you have it, you can get along better. And then there's a guy named Chapman that wrote a book called The 5 Love Languages. And I think if you understand that language, you can get along a lot better. Today, we'll focus on DISC. The bottom line is everybody's been around them. Everybody's taken assessments that's on the line. Some have gone deeper. Some have gone not so deep. And what we want to do is be able to make sure that whatever level you're at in speaking DISC, that it supports you as a leader or you in your sales and you in your personal life. You agree with that, Randy?
Absolutely.
So again, think about this. This is a language. Everybody's familiar with it. Some speak it in a different level of depth that are on us on our training today. And we want everybody to bump up a level no matter what level you're at. I got really fascinated with this a few years ago and just kind of doubled down on it. So for 20-something years, I've been teaching it. As I said, I taught it to my kids. And one of the things that's kind of funny, Randy, I think you might know this, not everybody does, when my kids were dating and they would date some guy more than a couple of months, I'd actually run a profile on the kid. What do you think of that, Frank? I knew I got you laughing.
I'm getting at that point now too, so it's good to hear.
Well, I'm just thinking that, you know, knowing who your kids are dating is probably a good thing. And actually, I turned it into something fun so that the kids could relate to me as the person they were dating's dad. And yet I was serious about communicating that if you marry someone and you understand their style, you're going to understand them a lot better. My wife happens to be very much of a C. And so when I'm like out there, you know, bouncing around like Tucker is as a high I, or like Randy is a heavy D, and then that's a disconnect to people that are more, how would you call it? They don't like change as much. They like things more simple. And I'm going to unpack that in a minute. So our purpose today, raise the awareness of communication styles. Again, DISC is one of the many assessments that's available. I like it because it's simple. We're going to teach it simply today. Share characteristics of different styles. So we're going to take the 4. We'll talk a little bit about blends if you're not familiar with that. That's where if you're not extremely focused in one particular area, You might be 2. And then we're going to talk about how you communicate to others. One thing you might want to write down as kind of a beginning piece is a lot of people make the mistake when they're thinking of DISC, and they think about the golden rule. And the golden rule is to communicate to others the way you want to be communicated to. And the golden rule doesn't apply to DISC. In fact, it's just the opposite. It's a platinum rule. So one of the things I'd like everybody to take away, if you don't own this mentally, is you want to communicate to people the way they want to receive it. And sometimes it's the same way you want to deliver it. Oftentimes it's different. My daughter's a D. When she grew up, I delivered her in a way that she could make choices. I happened to give her questions where either choice that she would pick would be the right choice. But by giving her that choice, I was able to speak to her where she could absorb it. And again, we'll bring some more examples there. So number one takeaway so far is the platinum rule is to communicate to people the way they want to receive it. The way we've got it set up right now, we're going to go into the different styles. We're going to compare the characteristics. I've actually pulled Tucker and Randy's page number 17 in our profile, and I'm going to, with their permission, show that, talk about it, unpack it for the benefit of everybody to understand page 17. The VIPs will talk about the most important points. Again, one of them will be the platinum rule, and then we'll close right on time as we always do within the hour. We believe that if you speak DISC as a team, you have more alignment. So those of you that lead a team, whether it's small or big, or even if you're part of a team, I think that you can count on having more alignment with your team, and that includes your family team. Developing better communications as a way in general to communicate. And again, culture, I think, is a big deal when you understand DISC at the level we're hoping you get within our time period. The DISC styles are really based upon 2 primary questions. Am I doing too quick, guys? Randy, too quick?
Totally good. I'm just going to say, just remind me, how does everybody get the the detailed self-assessment? Do they get that already?
They send me $500 and a gift card. We take Visa and MasterCard or American. Once we get, thank you, Anu, for laughing. Once we get the $500 card, then we have you send us a letter, and in that letter we put a code, we mail it to you, then you can read it. If you decode it, then you have a chance to get the assessment. If not, you still have sent us $500. It's a great deal. Glad you're part of the community, Terry. You gonna play? Just kidding. Always, how can they make sure they get it? Hey, I'm trying so hard, Randy. You told me to put energy in today.
Okay, he's really trying. I'm gonna go with
that's the wrong person, Eloise.
All right, so I will be sending out the code to everyone that attends, and all you have to do is plug that into your browser, and it'll take you to our site. You can go in, fill in the information. It'll take about 10 minutes, and you'll get the report at the end.
And you get it. You get a one-pager, but then you also get a very detailed kind of 51-page report that's definitely worthwhile doing.
What we did a few years ago, guys, is we teamed up with a friend of mine, and we built this customized 50-page report so that, like Eloise said, within a 10-minute of investment of time, you get distinctions about how you can improve your communication, how you like to be communicated to, how you process information, how others process information. So the report can be quite interesting. And guess who it's about? It's about you. So it's such a great thing that it's not about Randy or me or about Eloise. It's about you personally. We all know that. It's a cool deal. Here we go. So everything that you answer in those 30 questions, or in some reports it's 28, some it's 12, is based upon 2 primary questions. And here's what they are. If you want to take pictures, this is going to be a slide that you probably want to take a picture of once it gets completed. The 2 questions are you extroverted and fast-paced, or are you more methodical? Now, in most cases, someone is more one than the other, although in rare cases, you could be in the middle. So I'm asking you to ask yourself this question right now. Are you more kind of outgoing, fast-paced, extroverted, like Randy? Or are you more methodical, you think through things and you calculate? It's not good or bad, it's just how you are. That's question 1. Question 2 is on the right side. Are you more people-oriented? That means, would you rather hang around people, or would you rather be more by yourself and just getting stuff done? If you're getting stuff done through delegation or you're doing it yourself, doesn't matter. You just like getting stuff done. So are you more people-oriented, or are you more get the X in the box? That's the 2 major questions. So everything about DISC, to simplify it out, and again, please accept this, that I know there's different levels of understanding of people that are viewing this today. Some people know it as well as I do, maybe even know it better. And some people, this is really a beginning kind of concept for you. So whatever level you're at, I'm speaking to be able to level set with everybody. Just for percentages, if you want to write this down, about 10% of the population around the world is a D. A D in this model is dominant or a driver. Someone like Randy is a dominant and a driver person. They're very aggressive. They like to get stuff done, and they're a D. That's a top left. So if you have red on your profile, when you get your profile, you're going to see that indicates D or driver, 10%. On the top right, most salespeople, including sales managers, are I's. Again, it's not good or bad, just who you are. An I is a person that's very much of an influencer. You get people to take action. About 35% of the world is an I. Now let's talk about selling for a minute. When you're selling to a person and you can recognize they're an I, they want to be more social. When you're selling to someone like Randy, they want the bottom line. So we all know that in sales, if we can read people and pick it up, then we can communicate how they want to receive it. And many of us have done this for decades, so we do it naturally. If you want to do it naturally, that's a great thing. And if you want to do it with thinking and logic, that's a great thing. If you combine them both, we think you're going to be even better. On the bottom right is an S. An S in this model stands for steady. About 25 or 30% of the population in the world is an S. That's very people-oriented and very methodical. They are very much a person you can count on. They're loyal. And I will go into more detail in just a moment on each one of these four. If you want to take the picture now, that's the slide all filled out. That's a C, and that's a person that's very compliant, cautious, careful, and they don't like a lot of change. Again, not good or bad, just how you are. So if you're talking to someone that is an engineer type person, and maybe there's some on the line with us, Randy, if we have an engineer that we work with, sell with, works for us, they are generally going to be a C. They're very detail-oriented. They calculate. They look at all the what's going to happen next, what are the what-ifs, what's the possibilities. They're ready for questions, and they're great people to have on the team. If you have a bunch of C's and you have no D's, stuff doesn't happen. D's drive to get it done. I's are the ones that really influence people to take action, and the S's are the ones that are the glue to keep everybody steady and going. So let's open it up for a little chat. I've been talking quite a bit. Randy, anything you want to say? Or if we could send some chat questions in, that'd be great.
No, this is always eye-opening, and I think as you get further, then it helps in terms of the interaction and how do you really deal with teams, knowing that there's a different personality profiles.
If you're speaking or selling to a group of 8 or 10 or more, chances are you're going to have a whole variety. Where would you put most CEOs? D, Anu. Most people at the top are Ds. Ds rise to the top. The majority of the people at the top, CEOs, are Ds. They drive. In fact, they drive on Sunday. They drive in the morning. They don't even need an alarm clock because they want to drive so much. Randy, do you beat your alarm clock up sometimes? I mean, not like beat it up like this, but you wake up before the alarm clock goes off?
Fortunately, I'm a solid sleeper. So almost whatever time it is, I need the alarm clock to get up.
These are they just ready to roll and go. Here's one from Mark. If you're building a sales team, anybody see the rest of that?
I have a recommendation on how to staff with DISC personnel.
Yeah, I think a variety's good. Generally speaking, I sell easier because they're chameleons. So generally when someone's in a sales position, you want to look for a lot of yellow. Now, sales management's different. When you're selling, I is a winner because you can chameleonize yourself. Anybody else questions? We can go verbal or we can go chat. Anybody? What do you think, Dan?
It's always so interesting, and you really have to wrap your head around the different pieces of it to then understand where you're at with everybody on the team or who you're speaking.
How about this one, Dan? Are you married?
Yes.
Do you think it's important to know if your spouse is dominant in one of these areas?
Like you said earlier, it's great to know everybody around you and what where they're coming from. I'm sure it is. I'll be honest. Kind of didn't think about it, even though I've been through these before. So,
yeah, so
the kiddos, and I loved your piece on the kids.
Let me appreciate you being transparent. So when I teach this, like I'm doing today, and I apologize for getting too much into teach mode a little bit today, and I'm apologizing in advance. I just am so into this subject that I want to give you those distinctions like I just gave with Dan. If you are taking this seriously, you are taking what Dan said. He nailed it. All the people that are close to you, you need to know how they think. Eloise is a D. Eloise is on the line, right, Eloise?
I'm sorry, I don't think I heard that correctly.
And Eloise sometimes grinds on me a little bit to get stuff done. And I don't take it personally very often because I recognize that the way she sees the world is X's in the box. And so if I'm not like doing something and she's like, snap, snap, I told you to do that, I'm not like offended. I'm like going, cool. She's wanting me to get it done. But if you don't understand that about someone you work with, and maybe they work for you, and then you could be going, wow, that's not so good. And all they're doing is being their natural self. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yep.
Hey, Tony. I'm sorry.
I don't think this is the end all. Mark, you got to comment?
Yeah, I was just going to kind of share something with the team. The reason I asked that question is we went through an exercise recently where I profiled all 36 people on our sales team and our account management staff. And then I took that over the last year and I mapped out who are the top performers, who are the bottom performers in our channel route to market. And there was some distinct fact patterns because we every interview we do a disc profile on. And what we've come up with is kind of an interesting algorithm. And you're right, there is no absolutes, there is no proper balance. But depending on what you're selling, how technical it is versus relationship it is, you can start using the disc to dial in your prospects beyond just the resume. And so I just share that with the whole team that's an exercise we went through that was very telling. And I can pretty much tell you as soon as I get your disc profile, if you'll cut it here or you won't. Because again, ours is a little more, it's not a big relationship sale. It's not, buying donuts for people to go, get widget sales. It's about driving the business. So D's, DI's, I's are the ones that make up 80% of my top performers. And my account management is the opposite. That again, I want somebody that is going to be more empathetic. But again, they're playing defense versus offense. So just something we've done that's pretty fascinating.
Excellent VIP, Mark. Anybody that's running an organization, if we can help you later on with kind of bringing your whole organization into a kind of the disc profile, we'd love to help you with that. Mark nailed it. Like I hardly ever will interview somebody unless I have their profile.
Right.
So I can understand what I've thought about in terms of their HLAs, meaning what are their high leverage activities they're going to be doing in that role. And then I can predict it based upon their profile before I even talk to them. And it's so accurate. If someone is not stressed when they take the assessment, it's 90% on the mark. And even 90% is like powerful. Even 70% is powerful. It gives you an edge. So Mark, you nailed it. So did you, Dan. I think everybody around us. And let me talk about personal side. I was joking to get a smile about my kids. It is so cool that my kids can talk disc because they can talk disc about their pastor. They can talk disc about a new friend. They can talk disc about clients they're selling to. And then I get to speak to them in such a way that it's like a cool conversation as my kids are adults now. So again, I encourage you to think about all those people around you, like Dan said. Let's keep going. So if you take each one of these, this is the D. There's an opportunity here for 4 more pictures. There's going to be one for each letter D. D's they want to be in charge. So some of you heard me say this. Let me say it so everybody gets it. When my daughter grew up, my oldest daughter was a D. Her name's Brooke. I would say, sweetheart, do you want to go to bed at 9:30 or a little bit before 10? And either choice was fine with me. And if you notice that item number 1, she was in charge. So I'm speaking to her the way she wants to receive it. Everybody get that? As simple as it is. Versus, you're going to bed at 9:45. No. These want to be in charge. So what I do is I avoid conflict with my daughter because I know how to communicate to her in a way that she'll receive it. They're very goal-oriented. They focus on no nonsense. And in fact, when you communicate to people like Randy, if you can start out in the email to Randy and say, hey, Randy, the bottom line is this, and then you can go and give some more detail. And he is like so excited when he gets an email and the bottom line is like the first 10 words, right, Randy?
Exactly.
Versus wading through 16 bullet points or 3 paragraphs, and then go, oh, here's the ask. And you're like going, oh my gosh, even if it's only 18 seconds, D's don't like that. What do you, you're smiling, Terry. What do you think?
I think you're right on. Just get to the point.
Yep, get to the point. Next, how to adapt to a driver dominant style. Don't waste your time, just what I said. Organize, click, 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 click. What does that mean when you're selling to them? You want to have a good agenda. Here's the bullets. I just said it again, bottom line. What do you think, Mark? D's.
I love talking to them because I'm one of them. so that one's easier for me, but I totally agree with it.
Hey, Tucker, when you saw your report, what did you think about your report?
I was a little surprised. I also did not expect such detail on like the full report. So rating, your strengths, your work style, tendencies, things like that. I wish I had been a little more diligent going through that coming into this, but there's a lot there to work with. And, I think especially having worked with closely with Randy over the past couple months on the sales community stuff, learned pretty quickly how to adapt to the driver style just with communicating with him and being productive.
Let me link the dots of what Tucker just said. One of the great things about Randy, and I say this by being a close friend and his coach for many years and now his co-author, is he's so into assessing himself. And I know many of you are as well. Phil, I know many of you on the line here with us are as well. And man, when you assess yourself, you uncover blind spots. You see how other people see you. You see things, and then you don't have to change, but be aware of it. In that report, like you said, that level of detail, Tucker, that you get, you go, wow. And then you ask yourself, do I want to change or not? And if what you're doing works, don't change. If it's not working, you think you can get better, then take that new information and make a change,
Yep.
Anybody else? Who else on the line hadn't spoke? Phil, you got any thoughts on this? I know you and I have done the DISC thing over the time.
Yeah, and I would say that depending on the role that I'm in personally, I may go from a D to an I. And, now running a company, I feel like I'm more of a driver than being an influencer.
Yep. And I think you can change over time based upon maturity and based upon significant emotional events. And to what Phil said is sometimes you want to be able to adjust your style according to the role that you're playing. And it takes a real, let me just say, it really takes you to mastery. If you take what Phil just said, if you say, hey, I need to be a little more I in this particular meeting, and you're a D. So that might mean you might need to yield a little bit to joking and playing around a little bit when really you want to get to the bottom line. That being able to have the mastery of that adjustment of your own style. Let's look at the I for a minute. So many of you on the line are I's, 35%, maybe more because many of us are in the sales arena, of course. Friendly, enthusiastic, you love admiration. And what does that mean? That means when someone gives you a compliment, appreciates you, sends you a nice note, you dig it. So those of you that are leading people and you got I's and you appreciate them, here's another VIP. You want to appreciate the I's more than anybody else. And also, by the way, a side note, you get more what you appreciate. So if you're not shading enough, make sure you do that. Do D's and I's routinely adjust their style? We got one here. Where we are, the D's, adjust their style based upon situation. I think what happens is this. Over time, many people that succeed in the sales space learn to adjust naturally. And I think logically, if you can understand DISC, then you can really adjust more logically, not just intuitively. Give recognition freely to someone you're talking to that's I. Support their ideas the best you can and create social interaction. Take a picture if you want to. Go on once, go on twice. Sold. Next bidder, please.
Hey, Tony.
Is this Sean?
Yeah, how you doing? Nice to meet you.
Good, Sean. Hey, Sean, what's above your head? Hey, what's above your head?
Just about every best sports team in Boston. So.
Oh, good.
I got to rub it in every now and then. I know you're a Southerner.
Hey, did you work out this morning?
What's that?
Did you work out this morning?
Of course, every morning.
I was going to say, those shoulders are looking good, bro. Okay, I'm ready.
Quick question. Is it, when you're an I, because like I'm a natural I, it's uncomfortable for me to be a D and it's also uncomfortable most of the time to work with Ds, but you have to adapt. Would you say an I is more able to be a D when they have to be, and an S or a C because they are more of a chameleon versus like an S becoming a D or a C becoming a D?
Logically, the opposite's the hardest. So if you're a D up here, the opposite is an S. So you have to kind of go. So generally, in the way the matrix system's set up, and the point that you're making is so valuable because I's, when you turn into management, man, sometimes you struggle firing people. Sometimes you struggle having hard conversations with people. So anybody that's on the line here that's in a leadership role, or if you've hired people, Phil, that are in a leadership role for you, and there are a lot of I, know that they might keep somebody on the team too long because they don't want to have those crucial conversations. I'm one of them. I know for my own personal self, right, Sean? When you're a high I, like you are, right? Then you don't want to grind on people too much. It's like sometimes you do. You got to freaking get it done. You got to go, hey, I got to get the X in the box. And sometimes your team members are going, Sean, but you're like not being nice today. And you're like, get the X in the box, right? Close it. Get the purchase order. Make it happen. Okay. S are steady. You love people like this that hang on your team. You can count on them. Risk averse is interesting in itself. Earn their trust. Don't push them in a corner. S's are just great people in life. They're just, my youngest daughter's an S, and you can just everybody loves her. As a teacher, she's just fantastic. Just like always has friends, never has enemies, doesn't back people in the corner. And then the C's, here we go. These are the D.
Hey, Tony, just, going back here. So Jack had a great point. I think a strong D knows how to be an I at the right time, mostly for change management, et cetera, leading new directions, et cetera. So Jack, that was probably a lot of our Sun Microsystems culture. So I assume you agree with that, Tony, right?
What I believe is this. I believe the more aware you are of this, the more you can logically adjust. Like everybody after this training is going to take your whole level of thinking on this, going, man, you're going to be aware of it tomorrow, the next day, next week, next month. And if you keep playing with it, you're going to be aware of it forever. Randy, I believe this, though, if you let it fade 2 months from now, you might be back down to not really taking advantage of what we're saying here. I mean, of all the stuff that I've written, Randy picked this as one of the top 9 subjects of anything that I've written and worked on for 30 years. And you guys know I've done 300 courses. I mean, I just study all kinds of stuff. This is important stuff. And a lot of times we run companies, we run our sales departments without using this language. And it's Randy, to Randy's point, the more, or to the question, the more aware you are, the more you can adjust. What slide? What's question?
Drew wanted a slide. Drew, which one?
The I.
Okay.
You want to go back 2 slides for a second? There you go.
There you go.
I assume, Drew, you just want to take a picture, right?
All right, we charge an extra $1 for that.
Hey,
All right,
Tony, I want to ask a question to Mark. Mark, how well did your team receive being judged or going through the DISC evaluation?
Sorry, I have to get off mute. It was interesting because I thought there might be some pushback.
Right.
So actually, once they saw the output of that, they realized that it was kind of a two-way street, right? It wasn't a way for leadership to judge them. It was a way for us to communicate better with them and, speak more their language. And conversely, they knew how to come talk to us, right? So again, at first there was a little apprehension because everybody thought, well, if you answered the question wrong, but once you got over the hump that there is no right or wrong, it's just styles. And again, it's not an absolute. While I could be a D or a DI, it doesn't mean I can't do those other things, and same with them. So again, I think as we understood it better, there was now literally, to Tony's point, we talk in this language, right? That, how okay, that person's a D, or if we're in a sales campaign, that person's maybe an I or an S. How should we change our approach or our presentation? So I think they've not only figured out, A, it's not punitive, and they learned something about themselves like we all do when we go through the process, but second, we turned it into how to help them with their customers.
Great. Thank you.
Mark, you just triggered something. I've asked Will to go over and pull up one of our tools. We have a matrix that we call the stakeholders matrix, and it's going to be in our organizational toolbox. And inside that matrix, what we decided to do is actually have a column for DISC. So if you're talking to a board member, a chairman, a president, if you're selling to them, communicating to them, we want to know not just what they want and what they can do for us, we want to know their DISC profile. So we often build DISC into our tools, so it forces us. So for example, can you go over to our notes template and just go to a blank notes template? If we're holding a meeting, Mark, sometimes, no, not sometimes, 98% of the time when I do a meeting, I'm having someone take notes. I do live note taking because I'm like really into the efficiency of everybody seeing what we're agreeing to. And when you go to a live note taking template like we use, let's see if we can pop one up there. What I do oftentimes is I'll have a slice on the person's name. Would you slice the person's name for a minute? To the right, yeah, slice that off, Will, Tony. What we'll do is we'll take, and if we can, and we know this ahead of time, we'll actually take each person, go to the name column if you would. Well, thank you. Oh, I got it. You're faster. Okay, got it. And so you could actually put right there in red, put down DISC in red, in the white letters. And so I could say, what is Will? What is Eloise? What am I? And then you're right aware, and everybody's aware. When someone comes in and we have tent cards out, Mark, and we set tent cards out when we're in person, we will actually put their DISC on the top corner. And it's not like we're trying to be covert about it. It's like, hey, we're all going to communicate better if you know DISC,
Oh, it becomes a language.
It's a language. It is. Just please remember the whole Paris thing. You go to Paris, you don't speak French, you can get along fine. You speak French, you can get along better. Same way with DISC. You can be lazy about it, or you can get serious about this subject and become exceptional at it, All right, thanks, Will. Perfect. Let's go back over, if you would, Will, and we're going to dive back in. Guys, I've been communicating a lot, probably need to do a little more interaction. It's 34 after. Let me look at what we got coming up next. This next deal, I'll go through this quickly. I'm going to hit 5 slides together, and you might want to take a picture of this. So if you take all 4 of the categories and you slice it by the items on the left, you can see that a high D like Randy is very fast-paced. So the yellow and the red are faster. So when I'm driving fast, those of you that are yellow and red here, you like it. But if someone I'm selling to or communicating or training to or leading is a lot more blue or green, sometimes I need to slow down my pace so that I can connect to them the way they want to receive it. Here's how they prioritize. Here's what they seek. Here's what their strengths are. Here's what they struggle with. And so that's a great picture to take. And like knowing that in your head allows you to really be a master. So there you have that one. What do you think, Mark? You like it?
I'm just giggling, reading through the various groups. Yeah, I love it.
Steve Curry, you had a question? Have you found on a regional basis? What's the question, Steve? Do you see it, Randy?
Yep. Have you found a regional bias toward DISC?
Yes.
Selling leading in the Northeast versus the Southeast?
Yeah, you ready for this? Nicer people are down south. And up north, Northeast, you'll generally find people will be more driven. They are, you go to New York and they are like really heavy duty driven. I would say Boston's pretty driven, right, Randy? I mean, it's just the pace of the city. It's the pace of the geography. It's the pace of the region of the country. Now, I think that's could be taken the wrong way. Please don't take it the wrong way. You just asked the question. That's my opinion. It's my opinion. So, all right. Let's keep going, guys. Let's look at our next piece here. Let's play a little game here. Let's see if we can have some fun with this one. If you look at these folks here, I'm going to put several of them up the line. These are people that
you gave it away.
What's that?
I said he gave it away.
I did?
Yeah, with putting Trump in there.
Oh, okay. See, I did, didn't I? Okay. So if you look at these characters, either in character or out, would you say they're DIs, S's, or C's? And as Randy said, you know, with Trump, my goodness, he's like D off the charts, right? Rick, he's just like unbelievably D. And you can see all these people in character in real life are heavy duty D, not good or bad, just how they are. And it's really great when you can see or pick up or perceive what a person is and then make adjustments. Now, let me put a caveat here. Sometimes people are not extreme enough in a quadrant to matter. So don't worry about it. Like if you go, oh my gosh, I can't tell what Rick is. Okay, fine, move on down the road. You know, it's like for years I would feel like when I would see how good some people were at this language, and I was like, I can't tell what that person is. It's like, because they're really not that extreme in an area. Don't worry about it, move on. And if you really want to pick it up and someone's extreme, then it's easier to grab it and move and do something with it. All right, next set of people. Here we go. I got 4 sets. So the first ones were D's. What do you think these folks are? Either in character or in real life. Are they I, S's, or C's? First off, do you think there's some calculated thinkers here?
Wow.
S.
Your eyes.
Yeah, is that Jackie Onassis on the right?
Looks like it.
Yeah, I just saw a special, and she's actually a lot more calculating than I thought.
You nailed it. Ready? Here we go.
Wow. Wow.
You nailed it. How about David Letterman, who's known for his list, top 10 list? What does C's do? They make a list naturally. I's have to force themselves to make a list. D's have someone else make the list for them. You know, right, Randy? Well, Randy even delegated his wife to take the test for him. I was like, that is a.
I needed help just debating some things. I didn't have her do it. Jeez.
Well, I know Janet, so I can say that, right, Randy, or no? I'm just trying to be funny. I'm just trying to be funny. But D's really do, right, Mark? What are you talking about? Do you have people do your stuff? Of course you do.
Delegate as much as I can.
Exactly. D's get up in the morning, they can't wait to delegate. They're like, there's nobody around but your spouse, and you're like, and I got to have some people to delegate to. Let's get the phone going. Do this, do this, do this. That's you, Mark, right?
And if you know Cammie, she's the opposite, so it's a fail.
All right, let's go to this next one.
Yeah.
See if we can. All right, we got 2 left. We've already uncovered C's and D's. Is this a I or a S?
Hey, Tony, Mark just touched on a great question. I'll ask it more directly. So say hypothetically, if some of our significant others hate lists, what do you do?
If they hate lists?
Lists. Yeah, doing kind of to-do lists. And
I think you're going to have to get a divorce.
I had to do that once.
Okay.
Only once.
In all seriousness, I'm a list lover because I think you're much more productive if you make lists. I think that some people are more natural at doing lists. If you look at it from a pure X in the box standpoint, the C's are dead center. It's easier for them to do lists. Sometimes you have to convince people that aren't a C to do lists for the benefit. I don't know. I mean, my kids, I've taught them day one, make lists, you know? And then at the end of the day, if you haven't seen my video, you should watch this one. Write this one down. Put down Tony Jerry, activity versus productivity. It's a 3-minute video on YouTube, and it's all about making a list and getting an X in the box. We haven't planned it in the agenda. And maybe sometime we should do a training on that, Randy. But for right now, if you haven't seen that video, that is an excellent video to show your, it's shown at a staff meeting. So if you're looking for a video to really have a discussion on, it's all about list, making lists and getting X's in the boxes. Okay, are these, what do we have left? Let me just tell you what they are. They're S's. So you can count on them. They're loyal. They follow through for the most part, right? And then the last one in the little game here is the people that are very outgoing and friendly. And what I say when I usually show this slide is people like Oprah. She likes people so much, she created her own magazine of people called Oh, right? I mean, just think about that. Look at the smiles. They're smiling. You can see them smiling all the time. I mean, eyes are just like, they're just happy people. You know, it's like, hey, you're fired. Hey, thank you. That's really great of you. Why'd you do that? That's really nice. Well, I think I'm going to do something else. What do you think? It's like, come on. Okay, so we'll call them socializers or interactive. The thing about eyes, you know, they drink a lot of wine. They like to socialize. What do you think of that, Terry? Look at Rick. I got him to laugh at that one.
I'm good at that.
All right. Okay, here, ready for a video? All right, 2 minutes, guys. Here we go. This is funny. It builds up to it, okay? So it's only 2 minutes, and you start laughing about 1 minute into it once you get it. All right. And you can laugh if you know the video. All right. Will, shall I go to mute? Okay, I'm going to mute. Ready? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear it, okay?
Can't hear you.
Yeah.
It's not moving.
Nope.
Of course, it worked beforehand.
Yeah, I got nothing.
All right. Excuse me, all right. I want to find out the fellow's name. As long as it's okay with you.
I'm crazy about baseball.
Will you stand still? Pick up your hat. Go pick up your hat.
Okay.
Now look. Then you'll go and peddle your popcorn and don't interrupt the act anymore?
Yes, sir.
All right. But you know, strange it may seem, they give ball players nowadays very peculiar names.
Funny names?
Nicknames, pet names.
Not as funny as my name, Sebastian Dinwiddie.
Oh, yes.
Funnier than that?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Now, on the St. Louis team, we have who's on first, what's on second, I don't know's on third.
That's what I want to find out. I want you to tell me the names of the fellas on the St. Louis team.
I'm telling you, who's on first, what's on second, I don't know's on third.
Do you know the fellas' names?
Yes.
Well, then who's playing first?
Yes.
I mean the fellow's name on first base.
Who?
The fellow playing first base for St. Louis.
Who?
The guy on first base.
Who is on first?
Well, what are you asking me for?
I'm not asking you, I'm telling you, who is on first?
I'm asking you who's on first.
That's the man's name.
That's whose name?
Yes.
Well, go ahead and tell me.
Who?
The guy on first.
Who?
The first baseman.
Who is on first?
Have you got a first baseman on first?
Certainly.
Then who's playing first?
Absolutely.
When you pay off the first baseman every month, who gets the money?
Every dollar of it. Why not? The man's entitled to it.
Who is?
Yes.
So who gets it?
Why shouldn't he? Sometimes his wife comes down and collects it.
Whose wife?
Yes. After all, the man earns it.
Who does?
Absolutely.
Well, what I'm trying to find out is what's the guy's name on first base?
Oh, no. What is on second base?
I'm not asking you who's on second.
Who's on first?
That's what I'm trying to find out.
Well, don't change the players.
I'm not changing nobody.
Take it easy.
What's the guy's name on first base?
What's the guy's name on second base?
I'm not asking you who's on second.
Who's on first?
I don't know.
He's on third. We're not talking about him.
How did I get on third base?
You mentioned his name.
If I mention a third baseman's name, who did I say is playing third?
No, who's playing first?
Stay off of first, will you?
Well, what do you want me to do?
Now, what's the guy's name on third base?
What's on second?
I'm not asking you who's on second.
Who's on first?
I don't know.
He's on third.
There I go, back on third again.
Well, I can't change their names.
Will you please stay on third base, Mr. Broadhurst?
Now, what is it you want to know?
What is the fella's name on third base?
What is the fella's name on second base?
I'm not asking you who's on second.
Who's on first?
I don't know. Third base. You got an outfield?
Oh, sure.
St. Louis.
All right. There's really a lot of great history in that video. And it makes a point, I think, and I always thank you for putting it in there. The big thing is the whole platinum rule I started out with, guys, is if we really don't understand that communicating in our style is not the best, but communicating in the style that people want to receive it is like, that's mastery. Here's some things that we touched on. There's 4 basic styles. There's the 4. The sender and receiver sometimes often from different places, just the way they process information on their brain. Learning to recognize styles and let adjust. So who wants to give a takeaway? Let's kind of, Randy, you want to start off and then we'll kind of float around to a few people? Any thoughts from you?
Yeah, I know I'm going to put this in practice, and Tucker and I haven't talked about it, but with Tucker, Jesse, and some others, I think this will help us interact and work better together.
Yeah. Who, Randy, call on a few people that haven't shared. Who's on the line that Mike could give a good comment, you think?
Sure. How about Shannon? Shannon, are you there? No.
Shannon,
How about Jack Schwartz?
So, you made a comment before. It brings us back to the old Sun Micro days where we did the Myers-Briggs personality profiles among the leadership team, and then we looked at it in order to recognize within our own team how we dealt with each other. And then we started to apply some of it to our sales force and then obviously to our customers going out from there. This definitely simplifies it and makes it very digestible for a sales team to take in a session and really bring it into their account plans and identify their clients. Just a very simple way to communicate a lot more effectively with their clients. I like the way, you broke this down into a simpler format.
And we'll be including some of this in Randy and I's book that we're doing. So FYI, thanks for sharing. Randy, pick another couple people, please.
Sure. Frank Sacco.
Sure. So the way I was looking at this, and I was trying to bring this close to home with me, is that I think that during my career, I evolved. And what I mean by that, Tony, is that I think certainly coming up the ranks as a sales guy, I was definitely more of an I, but sort of made and evolved into more of a dominant driver as I became more responsible. Maybe it had to do with the role that I was playing in the organization, but that's the way I was trying to internalize this and think through it.
Yeah. And again, generally, when you move to the top, you got to have some D in you. You put someone in charge of something and they don't have much red, it's tough because D's have to be thick skinned and they have to push people to go, and you morph into it,
No doubt.
or fail, Anybody else that hadn't shared want to share? Terry, what's on your mind?
Just a good reminder, Tony. It's been a little while since I thought about DISC, so this prompted a lot of thoughts, and it's timely for me. We're starting our fiscal. I have some new people in my organization, so it'll be good to kind of get back to this and just look for ways to improve my own communication capabilities.
Hey, Frank and Randy, I want to appreciate everybody right now for just a minute. You know how busy everybody is. If you think about your calendar, it's full. And you guys are continuing to put a little trigger on your calendar to hang out with Randy and I in this sales community. And that was Randy's vision. It was really to be able to, every minute that you invested with us in the sales community, that we're delivering reminders, new information, things you can use, sharpen. And I just see so many people go through life and they go, I'm just too busy to get better. Wrong. Like, get better, right? Everybody, Sean, you agree with that? Just get better. An hour a week, an hour a day, whatever it is that you want to invest. And so I just wanted to appreciate Randy, everybody. Tucker, what's on your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I really like the sort of think about it as the platinum rule of, certain people want to receive information and direction in different ways. So being able to use this and have really just a structure around how best to communicate with other people. It's really putting some ideas and some thoughts into ways that I can improve, speaking with different people differently.
Yep.
But I think the interesting challenge sometimes is you're in a meeting with multiple folks. So you got multiple styles going on. A lot of times the D is easy to pick out, maybe then the I. But again, you may have all four types. You've got a mixture of each. You've only got an hour or less to communicate your ideas. And, it can be maybe pretty challenging is the right word to communicate that over.
So think about your pitching, Dan, on screen nowadays, and you notice that someone's a C, you could speak right to that person. If Frank was a C, I could say, Frank, so to give you the kind of the three next steps, and Frank's like, that's what I want. And you go 1, 2, 3, and then you go, Randy, from the bottom line perspective, here's the way it lays out here. And you just and you can just speak to people by name in the words, the way you use it, and they just feel so heard when you speak to them the way they want to receive it. But most people don't go to that level of mastery. It's just a level of mastery that, first off, some people aren't even aware of it, Dan. I mean, they're just like, okay, this is kind of cool. And Yeah, people got some preferences, and some people are a little aggressive. And whoever said it, like the Myers-Briggs, when you're doing 8, that's a little more complicated than 4. And the 4 is like about the simplest model out there, and it's just a great model. So Randy, let's call it a wrap. What do you want to say in closing? And I guess we have one more slide to talk about what's coming up next. Let's see if I can hit that one.
Since we're going through here, really appreciate last time we had some great comments. So in the chat, if y'all don't mind, just put in kind of any comments in terms of testimonial or feedback or anything at all like that. And then, you know, we'd like to share that, get you some exposure as well. So again, in the chat, feel free to you know, put any comments about this. We really appreciate that. And then coming up 2 weeks from now, which would be December 8th, we have strategic learning. Tony, you want to put in a plug for that?
You bet. Yeah, one of the things that I wrote a book 20 years ago called Training Other People to Train. And I just started getting into the psychology of how people receive information. And for the last 20 years, I've been really studying how, like the science behind how someone learns and how they receive information and then how they take it. And so I think you'll find that will be a very interesting hour, different than what you expect. It's like, how do people really absorb when you're asking them to take your information? And we're constantly asking people to understand our product, understand our process, understand the way that we sell, how to be on our team. So that subject, when you think about, well, I'm not really a teacher, I'd like you to think about it. It applies all over our lives. So look forward to that one.
That'd be great. So in conclusion, Tony, thanks as always. Appreciate it. Very enlightening. Great take-home value that we can start using right away. Big shout out, Mark Dickey. Great what you do with your team, and certainly a model for everybody else. And wish everybody a fantastic and hopefully relaxing and restful Thanksgiving. For those that want to check out Sales Community, we are salescommunity.com. Several of you are already members and involved. For those that aren't, check it out. It's we also have a 30-day free trial, so no downside at all there, and lots of great content and different things to learn from your personal life to your work life to selling. So again, thanks everybody for making the time for joining, and thank you, Tony.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving all.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Thank you.
Tony, look for those gift cards.
Are we going to email the link for the evaluation?
Yes, I'll send that out to everyone.
For the evaluation, you can just put that in the chat. So the self-assessment for you on the DISC communications, that will be sending to you. But for the testimonial, if you can just put that in the chat, that'd be great.
Great.
Does that make sense?
Yep, absolutely. Thank you very much. Have a great Thanksgiving.
Thanks, you too.